So today we're talking about a titan of the tech world, Sergey Brin,
Hmm.
the man who, with Larry Page, basically gave us the first real map of the internet with Google Search.
Right.
He stepped down from Alphabet in 2019, went into a sort of semi-retirement, but now he's back.
He is very much back. Our sources say he's at a Google satellite office working pretty much every day.
And that's the real story here, isn't it? The reason why.
It is. This is all about the intense, furious race for AI dominance. We're watching the founder who created the internet's first real sense of order,
Through search.
Drew Search, now leading the charge on its next great disruption, which is Gemini and generative AI.
And he's not downplaying the stakes. He's on record saying this AI boom is scientifically far more exciting than the early internet and mobile revolutions combined.
I mean, that's a huge statement from someone who literally built the foundation of the modern web.
It is.
And it confirms why he's there. He came back in 2023, and he is laser focused on the technical side of things, the Gemini models, VO3 for video generation. He basically said anybody who is a computer scientist should not be retired right now. That's the energy he's bringing.
So if he was, comfortably semi-retired, what was the one thing that was powerful enough to pull him back on full time? What makes this a unique time in history for him?
It was pure competitive shock. He came back almost immediately after OpenAI launched ChatGPT.
Ah, okay. The seismic event.
The seismic event. Some are calling it a shift on the level of the Industrial Revolution. It just changed everything overnight in terms of how you interact with information.
And Google, which should have been leading this charge, looked like it was caught completely flat-footed.
They were. There was so much criticism, both internally and externally, that they'd become too big, too complacent. And the incredible irony is that Google funded the paper that started it all.
Attention is all you need from 2017.
That's the one. It's the blueprint for the transformer model that powers, every single modern LLM, including ChatGPT. They invented the engine, but were too slow to put the car on the road.
So Brin is back to fix that, to steer the ship.
Yeah.
How does one person even start to tackle that kind of corporate inertia?
Well, his new job is to prove Google isn't a follower anymore, but a leader. And you have to understand, this isn't just about market share. It's an existential fight.
How existential are we talking? I mean, is Google search really under threat?
Completely. Search still makes up 56% of Alphabet's $350 billion annual revenue.
Wow.
If the primary way you find information shifts from a search bar to an AI chatbot, that entire legacy, that entire cash cow is at risk. For Brin, letting that go means giving up his entire life's work. The PageRank legacy.
Which frames this less like a simple return to the office and more like a targeted military campaign.
It absolutely is. One source even called his team a light brigade. It's a specialist group of over 300 engineers in a separate office designed to move fast.
And he's in the weeds with them.
He is really deep in the technical details. That means model training, post-training, fine-tuning, all the nitty-gritty work to make sure these models are actually good.
And you can see the results in their speed. The CEO, Sundar Pichai, said they're now making announcements within an hour or two of a breakthrough at DeepMind. It's a huge culture shift.
It is, and the metrics are starting to reflect it. On the developer side, Gemini now has 7 million developers building on its platform.
Okay, and OpenAI.
OpenAI is at 3 million, so they have a big lead there.
But in terms of public users, ChatGPT is still ahead, right?
It is, for now. ChatGPT has around 600 million monthly active users. Gemini is at 350 million. But, and this is the key part, Gemini was at only 9 million a year ago.
That is explosive growth.
It is. So Brin has absolutely brought that startup urgency back to the building.
Okay, so if the immediate goal is winning the current AI race, what's the grand ambition here? I saw he has a timeline.
He does. The grand publicly stated goal is to make Gemini the world's first AGI, or artificial general intelligence, before 2030.
We hear that term, ADI, all the time.
Yeah.
But for you listening, what does that actually mean? What's the practical difference?
AGI is sort of the holy grail of AI research. Loosely defined, it's an algorithm that doesn't just perform tasks, but actually mimics the functioning of a human brain.
So it can handle randomized thought, maybe emotion.
Exactly. Emotion, common sense reasoning, and even empathy. That's the goal. It's the difference between a tool that can write a good email for you.
and a mind that actually understands the context of the email.
Precisely. And if you look at the products they're launching, they're all about gathering the data needed to understand context.
Things like Project Astra at their last I/O conference.
Yes, Project Astra is a perfect example. It's not just a chatbot. It's a multimodal assistant that's meant to be always on, seeing what you see through a camera, hearing what you hear.
To get that real-world context.
To get that real-world context, if you want an AI to develop something like empathy, it can't just live in a text box.
Yeah.
Same with Gemini Live for conversation, Google Beam for 3D conferencing, and Android XR for wearables.
The wearables angle is fascinating because that was the site of one of his biggest acknowledged failures.
The ghost of Google Glass.
Right.
Yeah, and he was very open about that failure. He admitted he didn't know anything about consumer electronic supply chains back then. His return to wearables with Android XR suggests he thinks the AI, the brain of the system, is finally ready, even if the hardware wasn't back then.
To really get why this is all so personal for him, we have to go back to the very beginning, to that original 1998 research paper, The Anatomy of a Large-Scale Hypertextual Web Search Engine.
The birth of Google.
So what was the problem they were trying to solve in 1998?
It was a quality problem. The search engines back then were just based on keywords. So if you search for something, you'd get pages that just repeated that word over and over again.
It's junk results.
Total junk results. The issue wasn't finding pages, it was figuring out which pages actually mattered.
And that led to their first big innovation, the one everyone knows, PageRank. How do you explain that simply?
They thought about the web like the world of academia. If one scientific paper cites another, it's a vote of confidence. A hyperlink, they realized, is a citation.
Yeah.
So their PageRank model imagined a random surfer clicking links. A page becomes important if a lot of pages link to it, or, and this is key, if a few very important pages link to it. It created an objective measure of quality.
So it brought order to the chaos.
Yeah.
But there was a second innovation too, right?
There was anchor text, and this was just as brilliant.
That's the actual clickable text in a hyperlink.
Exactly. Before Google, search engines only really associated that text with the page it was on. Brin and Page had the idea to associate that text with the page it points to.
Oh, that's clever. So if 100 different websites link to a single page using the words New York's best pizza?
Then Google learns that the destination page is probably about New York's best pizza, even if the page itself doesn't use those exact words. It's an external, objective description.
It's genius.
It was so powerful that in their paper, they tell this anecdote about how their system returned a result that literally had no title because the page hadn't even been crawled yet. It found it based purely on what other sites called it in their anchor text.
And that's why their results were just instantly better than everyone else's.
Oh, immediately. They used the example of searching for Bill Clinton. One of the big search engines at the time gave you the Bill Clinton joke of the day.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Google gave you high-quality, authoritative results from whitehouse.gov. That is the legacy of order and quality that Brin is now fighting to protect from this new AI wave.
And it's so interesting to connect that original vision back to his personal principles today. That 1998 paper was actually very critical of the advertising model.
It was. They were worried that it would create a search engine that was inherently biased towards the advertisers. This tension between pure science and commerce seems to drive a lot of what he does now.
Especially in his philanthropy.
Absolutely. That instinct for pure scientific problem solving is all over his personal giving, which he calls his CNS quest.
Central Nervous System quest. What does that cover?
He's focused his giving, which is about $3.9 billion so far, on the really complex CNS conditions, things like Parkinson's disease, bipolar disorder, and autism.
And his work on Parkinson's is deeply personal for him.
It's extremely personal. His mother was diagnosed with the disease, and he later found out he carries the G2019's mutation in the LRRK2 gene, which gives him a very high risk of developing it himself.
And he's now the biggest single donor to Parkinson's research in the world.
By far, over $1.5 billion, all to accelerate the fundamental science and find therapies.
And you see that same focus on fundamental science with his newest initiative.
Yes, exactly. After a diagnosis in his own family, he launched ARIA, which stands for Aligning Research to Impact Autism. It's already funded with over $50 million to, again, research the foundational causes and therapies. It's the same pattern. Find the core scientific problem and apply massive resources to it.
So you have Sergey Brin fighting this war on two fronts. On one hand, he's protecting the legacy of PageRank, the objective order he built for the web. And on the other, he's trying to steer the entire future of knowledge toward the creation of AGI.
And that's the jolt of urgency Google desperately needed. He's leveraging the company's biggest advantage, its moat, which is its incredible data from search and the IP from DeepMind. He's combining that with a startup mentality to fight off that too big, too slow problem.
Full in a race against the clock to hit AGI by 2030.
Which, again, means an algorithm that can simulate the whole spectrum of human thought, all the way up to empathy.
So this brings us to the final thought for you to take away. Brin is pouring all of his resources, corporate, intellectual, and personal, into building an AGI that can simulate randomized thought and even empathy within just a few years. Given the incredible speed he's seeing, what specific human quality do you think will be the last and the very hardest for an AGI to truly replicate? We'll leave you with that to think about.